Jay.
Long time no talk to.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Is that your home office?
Yep, 7.
Okay. 7.
All right, everyone. It is 7 p.m. I'm going to call the Pennichuck Water Special Committee meeting of November 3rd, 2021 to order. Excuse me. A meeting of the Pennichuck Water Special Committee was held Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber and via Zoom, which meeting link can be found on the agenda and on the city's website. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. If you're participating by Zoom, please state whether there's anyone in the room with you during this meeting and your reason for not participating in person, which is required under the right to know law. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman at Large Michael B. O'Brien Sr. is present. Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire.
I'm here.
Alderman Richard A. Dowd.
Present.
Alderman Skip Cleaver is not in attendance. Chairman, Alderman at Large Brendan Michael Laws.
I am here.
Also in attendance is Alderman Clee. Also in attendance, guest this evening is Larry Goodhue, CEO of Pennichuck, Don Ware, COO of Pennichuck, Thomas J. Leonard, Director of Pennichuck Corporation, John Boisvert, Chris County, and George Torres, Corporate Controller and Treasurer of Pennichuck.
Thank you.
And Harriet Gaffney is here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gaffrey.
And Alderman O'Brien, just as a point of reference, Mr. Ware is not yet in the meeting. He may not be joining us, but just so the record is correct. But all the other members of the Pennichuck team are present online.
Thank you.
So the first thing on the agenda is public comment. There is nobody present in the chamber. Do we have anybody on Zoom? It is looking like we do not. So we will skip to communications.
Communications from Larry D. Goodhue, Chief Executive Officer of Pennichuck Corporation. Reason, Pennichuck Corporation Quarter Report to the sole stakeholder for the quarter ending March 31st, 2021. Also, from Larry D. Goodhue, Chief Executive Officer of Pennichuck Corporation. Reason, Pennichuck Corporation Quarter Report for the sole shareholder for the quarter ending June 30th, 2021. Also, from Dorothy Clark, Esquire. Reason, R-21-181, authorizing Pennichuck Corporation and Pennichuck East Utility Incorporated to enter into a loan with CoBank ACB.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communications and place them on file.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
a point of reference, you don't have to get as close with these mics. They're very sensitive.
My yelling.
No, but they were getting feedback from Alderman O'Brien.
I have that Irish voice.
Just booming. Unfinished business.
There is none.
New business resolutions.
Before us this evening is R-21-181, authorizing Pennichuck Corporation and Pennichuck East Utility Incorporated to enter in a loan with CoBank ACB. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage.
The motion is for final passage, but before we get to that, would Mr. Goodhue like to shed some light on this?
Absolutely, Alderman Laws. This loan is a little bit unique. It is for our Pennichuck East Utility subsidiary. And unlike loans we've done in the past that have been directly tied to capital projects for Pennichuck East Utility, this loan is directly tied to the current rate case proceeding we have in process for our Pennichuck East Utility subsidiary. The rate case that is in process is based on a test year of 2019. We are actually in the final stages of a settlement agreement between all the parties to the case, which include the company, the Department of Energy staff, which is formerly the Department of the PUC staff, but they reorganized in Concord, the Office of Consumer Advocate, an attorney representing both the towns of Londonderry and Litchfield, another attorney representing some residents in the town of Londonderry, as well as a sole intervener who is a single customer representing himself in the town of Litchfield. That case, like I say, is at a point of settlement. One of the key things that we brought into place during our last rate case for Pennichuck East and the last two rate cases for Pennichuck Water Works were modifications to the rate structure for which our allowed revenues are calculated in order to best have our revenues replicate the actual cash flow operations of the company and the protection of cash flows in order to sustain the company on a going forward basis. If the members of this committee would recall, when the city purchased the company, Pennichuck Corporation, on a public company status in January of 2012, $150.6 million was bonded, of which $5 million of that was used to initially fund a rate stabilization fund to the benefit of the regulated utilities to ensure that cash would always be there to satisfy the payments to the city, as well as to mitigate the impact on the company, mostly from weather anomalies that can impact revenues in each year. As we went through the various rate cases since through 2012, we've had further modifications to our rate structure, including the bifurcation of that rate stabilization fund, not only into three different buckets to support revenues for the utility companies, but to also bifurcate it and attribute a portion of that $5 million fund to Pennichuck Water Works, to Pennichuck East Utility, and to Pittsfield Aqueduct. Part of making sure that those rate stabilization funds stay in place is making sure that we have adequate revenues relative to our allowed revenues in a rate case. And one of the things that we got established in the last PWW rate case, and we're asking for in this rate case for PEU, is a thing called the material operating expense factor. And what it does is it allows us to get more than dollar for dollar coverage for operating expenses, such that extra cash is collected in the allowed revenues the first year out of the rate case, and as costs increase in the second year, probably be on par, and in the third year as costs increase again, the extra revenues collected in year one can be used to pay for those expenses in year three, as we're promulgating the next rate case on a 3-year cycle. That all being said, based on the fact that we were 3 years between rate cases for Pennichuck East, our expenses had grown between the rate cases, and to the extent that it had actually grown past a point where those rate stabilization funds could be fully funded, the rate stabilization fund that supports our operating expenses had become impaired. This is a long explanation, I apologize, but there was two approaches to this. One was to actually get that rate stabilization fund refilled in this rate case by amortizing that refill over a 10-year period of time, which would basically take 10 years to bring that cash back in place to get the fund fully reestablished, and would have been almost like swimming upstream because operating expenses would have continued to grow between that. One of the proposals that one of the interveners to the case had asked for was, is there a different way that we can do this? Could you borrow the money to refill that fund right away and then actually ask for a factor that's a little bit less in the MOEF, in essence, requiring less of a rate increase at this time and fully funding those funds right up front and then having the factor in place to sustain them. So this loan that we are seeking approval on of up to $2.55 million, and actually it's going to be closed at an amount of $2,546,632, which is underneath that $2,550,000, is a part of the settlement agreement between all of the parties. And this loan has already been approved by our board of directors. It's been approved by TD Bank, who is our senior lender for the Pennichuck Corporation. And we already have an order in hand from the commission issued on October 29th approving this loan. So all approvals are in place with the exception of the one that we're asking for with you folks at this time, such that we can go to closing on this loan. We're looking to close on it on November 30th, which will allow us to have this in place relative to the final rate hearing for PEU, which is held on December 15th in preparation of getting new rates established for Pennichuck East in the early part of next year. So I apologize for such a long dissertation, but I felt it important for you to understand really what's going on here. And this is a unique loan situation. We're calling it a one-time only situation in that we're just using this to reestablish the rate stabilization fund while the new factor gets in place, which will be there to sustain those funds on a going forward basis.
I really wish you wouldn't apologize. In fact, I wish that you would come to all of our committee meetings and explain everything as thoroughly as you do. The finances of Pennichuck. I appreciate it. Are there any questions from committee members? No? Well, then will the clerk please call the roll?
All members are present in the chamber, Mr. Chairman, so I think it can go by a voice vote.
Okay, certainly. Oh, I've never done that before, so forgive me.
Welcome to the meeting of the
Welcome to the
COVID.
new century.
Try new things. All those in favor, say yay.
Aye.
Aye. No, and those opposed? All right.
That's 4-0, motion carries.
New business ordinances.
There are none?
General discussion, are we, Alderman Dow?
I just have two quick questions, Larry. I've been following closely for months the new tank at Kessel Farm,
Yes,
and it looks like it's getting close.
yes.
The two questions I have, first is, I noticed in your report that it topped out at a price of over 1.8 million. Is that a little more than you thought originally?
You know, the good news is, Alderman Dowd, is I've got our chief engineer, John Bover, on the phone or aligned with us. And I'm gonna defer to him to give you all the specifics with response to that project. So Mr. Bover, our chief engineer, will now speak.
Thank you, Larry. For the record, this is John Bover, Chief Engineer for Pennichuck. Alderman Dowd, I think I was trying to catch all of your question, but I think one of the things that you were asking was the total cost of the project up there on Kessler Farm?
Well, that was the first part of it. Is it more than you anticipated, or?
It is, and I think primarily because think of a couple of things that have happened here. We had originally planned to do the project back in 2019, or started in 2019 to build it in 2020. But due to COVID and a number of things, it really forced us to delay the start of the project until 2021. So just inherent in all of that, the construction costs have definitely risen. I think fortunately, we were able to bid the project back early part of 2021 before we started to see a meteoric rise in construction costs across the board, in the months of April, May, June, and the like. So the project came in more than we had planned originally, but within what we felt were the range of prices that we would see, for a completed project.
Okay, thanks, and I appreciate getting you involved in the conversation here. The other question I have is, when do you think it will be full of water? And when do you think that project will be totally completed? I'm sure it's spring now because the plantings and stuff won't happen.
That's correct. We are on track to get begin filling the tank, around the Thanksgiving time to begin that process. It's about a 2-week process to fill a tank like that. You fill a little bit, you let it sit, you let it come up, and you do a number of things in the fill-in process. And obviously, things like, testing and making sure, the water quality from the tank is fine and everything else like that before we actually put it online. But it is scheduled to go into use in the early December timeframe. There will be still work while we're filling it going on outside. The site will need to be stabilized for the wintertime. And like you said, plantings and final landscaping and a number of things won't get done until probably the April, May timeframe of next year, when the site is brought back to as required by the site plan approval.
Okay, that's super, and I don't know if you have control of this project too. I noticed that you're moving along extremely quickly on your solar farm, and because I have the project right next door, and
that one I'd have to allow. I've been gracefully allowed not to participate in that one, which is fine.
And this is Mr. Goodhue. I will come back online, and in the absence of Mr. Ware, who is really, I'm gonna say, the project lead on the solar farm, is it is coming along nicely, Alderman Dowd. And one thing to recall is in order for the solar company to actually take advantage of the federal tax credits that are available, it has to be online by the end of this year. So, and they are on track to have that happen.
Oh, no wonder they're working so fast.
Yeah. It's a financial incentive.
And somebody asked me the other day if you were gonna hire a team of goats to eat the grass, to keep the grass at the right level. He said, I have no idea.
I think I heard a deer would do it, don't you?
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Been seeing more and more of those.
yeah. Too bad the wild turkeys didn't eat grass, we'd be all set.
That's right.
All right, but it's looking good, and I think the coordination has been going well with all the contractors. It's
Yes.
like, sometimes challenging to get all the contractors involved in both projects all on the same page, but working
Yeah.
out.
You know, and I guess in some ways I'm speaking for John, but this year has had some unique challenges to it. And I think one of the unique challenges is what people are facing all over the country with certain supply chain disruption. You know, we haven't seen supply chain disruption affect us operationally in any significant manner, but what we are seeing is cost escalation happening. John is seeing it in his construction projects, as he mentioned. One good thing is they bid a lot of things early on in the season, thank goodness. But we are seeing, as we're going into the next year, certain things that we're finding out about our treatment chemicals and certain things that we procure for the operations of the company having some material adjustments in pricing on a going forward basis. And so that's some of the challenges that we're gonna be facing as a water utility,
Yes, we have the same issue with the school building project.
I'm sure.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Public comment, still? Nobody here? Nobody on Zoom?
Alderman Laws, could I just ask one favor? We have our board chairman on the line, and I would just ask if he has any comments that he would like to offer up to the Special Water Committee. We only get to meet with you folks a few times a year, and we feel it's really important to make sure that we have open and clear lines of communication. So, Mr. Leonard?
Well, I don't have thanks very much, Larry, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a whole lot to say, except that I think Larry took some time and carefully explained that reserve fund replenishment, and it's kind of an unusual situation, so we appreciate all of your efforts in that regard. But the only other thing I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman, is I think I understand that you are changing seats, and certainly and I'm not sure who else, to be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to read all of the results and see what's going on, but I know the committee will change, and I think we certainly appreciate all of your effort, both organizing this committee and otherwise, but in particular regard to how you're handling Pennichuck. It's been a good few years here. We feel like we have good communication, and we really appreciate that. It's very important to the company, very important to the operations of the company, and I think important to the community, and we appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not sure how much credit I deserve for it. I think you guys would be doing just as well with a talking monkey sitting in my seat, but I do appreciate it, and I'm gonna miss you guys, and you may not have seen the last of me. I'm gonna take a brief multi-year intermission to be a dad for a while, and then you might see me back in the chamber at some point, so, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
We would look forward to that, Alderman Laws.
Well, thank you very much.
I don't know if he's changing chairs, but he's changing a lot of diapers lately.
I am changing a ton of diapers.
Sad, you keep feeding them and they keep coming
It's
back
weird.
that way.
It's weird how that works.
Sometimes it seems like more coming out than going in.
Yep, it does. Now I'm thinking about dirty diapers again. So remarks by the alderman that don't have to do with diapers? No? There's no non-public session.
None.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
All right. Motion is to adjourn. We don't have to do it by roll call, so all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Motion carries 4-0.
we are adjourned at 7:20 PM.